YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. We all had heard the rumors of Klaus Schwab stepping down from the World Economic Forum. They've been talking about it for a few years now, and they couldn't have picked a more wicked person to replace him, because Larry Fink and Andre Hoffman have been appointed the co-chairs of the World Economic Forum. And everybody should know the connection between Larry Fink and Donald Trump and everything that's going to go on in the next couple of years with bringing in AI governance and AI infrastructure. They couldn't have picked a more demonic person to replace Klaus. But I still doubt that it'll be the last time we ever see Klaus, because even though he supposedly had stepped down even prior to this year's World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, he still was there. And Donald Trump was still telling him how wonderful it was to be there. And I'm not really sure how much more people need to see to realize that Donald Trump is the one who is bringing in the globalist AI infrastructure plan. But most people are too distracted with psyops. And of course, you could thank Larry Fink for why so many people are invested in Donald Trump and why so many people are obsessed with Donald Trump. Because it was BlackRock's staged assassination attempt on Donald Trump that really built this psychosis and took it to a level that we've never seen before. The obsession, the idol worship, the Trump syndrome, the Trump can do no wrong in the eyes of the MAGA supporters, all because of that photograph that they took of Donald Trump pumping his fist in the air and Donald Trump standing in the face of globalism, even though the reality of the matter is he's the one who's bringing it in. And we've seen lots of articles out there. We've seen lots of interactions between Trump and Larry Fink during his first term, how BlackRock's Larry Fink won over Donald Trump. Larry Fink and Donald Trump, an unexpected partnership, but a very expected partnership. And of course, BlackRock's Larry Fink is now in Trump's inner circle. And if you don't remember the Thomas Crooks fake assassination attempt, well, this was Thomas Crooks, the supposed shooter, the supposed gunman who outsmarted the Secret Service and was somehow able to get on top of that roof and fire a bullet that just missed by a milli-inch and nipped Donald Trump's ear with the, of course, ketchup package that Donald Trump used during this fake assassination attempt. And of course, the psychosis grew from that day forward to a point that we can't even penetrate the minds of any of these conservatives anymore, because they are so deeply invested because of this BlackRock operation. And if you don't remember what I'm talking about, well, this shooter, Thomas Crooks, who obviously looks like he couldn't even walk down the road without somebody holding his hand, well, he somehow outsmarted our own government, our own military, our own Secret Service. And while he was on that rooftop, he just happened to conveniently miss by so close, just so close, that Donald Trump was able to get up and scream, fight, fight, fight. But you may remember that Thomas Crooks was also featured in a BlackRock commercial. I'm sure that's a coincidence as well.
My name is Brian DeLallo. I teach AP and honors economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school and gave as much as he could to help the community. Place to come to school.
So yeah, I'm sure that's a huge coincidence. This is clearly is and clearly was a government operation that they carried out. And again, since that happened, we have not seen idol worship like this ever before in the United States of America when it comes to an actual president. We've seen psychotic idol worship when it comes to people like Taylor Swift, or it comes to some of these musicians. We've never seen it with a political figure quite like this. So Larry Fink, along with Andre Hoffman, have been appointed as the new co-chairs of the World Economic Forum. And again, Andre Hoffman, for anybody out there that doesn't know, is the vice chairman of Roche Holdings, which is a leading global pharmaceutical company that was founded by his family. So we have Mr. AI governance, Mr. behavioral control, Larry Fink, teaming up with Big Pharma. And Larry Fink has talked about how we need to move forward with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could potentially replace the dollar. And then the other guy who's going to be sitting right next to him at the World Economic Forum is somebody who's involved in big tech. So if you understand what's coming with the digital ID and getting this technology, this nanotechnology inside of the body in regards to blockchain actually being inside of you, built inside of you in your genetic code, well, then it makes sense as to why they picked a big pharma guy along with Larry Fink. And again, if you don't remember, Larry Fink, most famously known for talking about how BlackRock, which has its hands in every single corporation from media to Amazon to Big Pharma to Palantir, all of it, everything that's going to be part of this control grid. Larry Fink has openly talked about, just like Alex Karp at Palantir has talked about, how the future is going to be all about behavioral control. And again, that's where the digital ID comes into play. Because with the digital ID, when you get taxed, when you get frozen, when your assets get frozen, your bank accounts get shut off, all because of the things you say online, well, it'll force behaviors to change because you won't be saying things that you want to say anymore. You won't be questioning the government anymore because they'll make sure that you aren't able to travel, that you aren't able to access your finances anymore. And of course, you'll be deducted and taxed on your allotted universal basic income.
Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors. What we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay? You have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. Behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
So that's what their plan is in regards to forcing behaviors to change. It has everything to do with a digital ID because as they move all of us from the physical realm into the digital realm, which pretty much we're already there. That was part, again, of the experiment that occurred during COVID. It wasn't just about getting everybody poisoned with nanotechnology and graphene oxide. It was also about getting people to start FaceTiming. All these things that didn't occur, nobody remembers before 2020. Grandmas and grandpas weren't FaceTiming. People weren't FaceTiming with anybody. Okay, that was part of the experiment, getting you used to doing these things digitally, where you didn't have to go see your parents anymore, or your grandparents anymore, your grandkids anymore, where people were more comfortable just FaceTiming. And now, even in 2025, we see a world where most people, instead of venturing out, instead of traveling, to another state to visit family, they FaceTime with one another. They've moved everything digitally. And of course, we know the future with education, getting things online, getting you to be taught and trained by AI instead of actually having any correspondence with human beings. So Larry Fink is all about AI infrastructure, as is Donald Trump. And as I mentioned earlier, Larry Fink is heavily invested in Palantir. And that's a huge problem because that is the control grid. Palantir is the one who is not just spying on America, is building out these databases with every single thing that we say, every single thing we search in a Google search. They are building out this infrastructure using Palantir. And I'm sure a lot of you have finally started hearing about Palantir, not just because of what they do, obviously in regards to the Mossad and everything going on in Gaza, but here in America, that Palantir stock has blown through the roof, so people are starting to get accustomed to who Palantir is. And I'm sure the stock will hit the thousands over the next couple of years because they want everybody to know that Palantir is the face of this AI governance infrastructure that Trump is bringing in. So Larry Fink has emphasized the critical need for significant investments in AI infrastructure, particularly in power grids and data centers to support the rapid advancements of AI. He's also highlighted the importance of government involvement in shaping AI development, ensuring that Europe can compete effectively in the AI race by addressing energy infrastructure challenges. Fink's vision for AI governance includes redefining how governance is digitized, focusing on user design and experience, and creating tailored experiences for different user groups. According to an AI governance article, he's also very big on moving from cash to a cashless society. Fink has discussed the potential for the tokenization of bonds and stocks. This is something we're hearing a lot more about with Donald Trump. He even recently, in just another, it's almost like every single day, Donald Trump has a microphone in front of him. People don't pay attention to the stuff that he's saying because he cracks a joke here, he cracks a joke there. And then in between that, he's telling you, hey, this system needs to change. We need to get away from how slow it moves with people writing checks and people using cash, and we need to digitize. Yet all these people don't realize that that is what the New World Order is built off of. It's built off digitizing everything because it gives them full control over everything. Every dollar you spend, you won't be able to write things off on your taxes anymore because they'll know how you spend every single dollar that you have. In addition to that, it gives them full power over all of your assets and all of the money in your bank account. And that's what they really want most, is to mold the behaviors of society by having control over their bank accounts and their assets by saying, look, you can access your bank account online, but if you question the government online, we'll freeze your bank account. We're going to have social credit scores in place, and that's how they're going to change your behavior. They're going to force behaviors, just like he said earlier. He's not shying away from this, okay? And we're talking about the movement of transitioning away from cash into a digital currency. BlackRock has even talked about the digital verification and how this digital ID needs to come into play, even in an article released by Forbes where it says Naomi Campbell, Larry Fink, and the pressing need for a digital ID. A quote from Larry Fink from this year talking about how we need to move towards digital identities. And he said, quote, "One day I expect tokenized funds will become as familiar to investors as ETFs, provided we crack one critical problem: identity verification. If we're serious about building an efficient and accessible financial system, championing tokenization alone won't suffice. We must solve digital verification too." And keep in mind all these little things that we've seen now with age verifications over the last couple of weeks that the mainstream media is really not covering at all because they don't want you to wake up to what's actually going on, obviously. They don't want you to realize, hey, you know, in Australia, you have to do age verification to do a Google search. How about in America now? YouTube have to be age verified. The entire earth right now, every single country is moving forward with not just AI governance, which is the Tower of Babel rebuilt, but they're moving forward with more restrictions on being able to access the internet. Getting people to a point where they say, well, how am I supposed to access the internet? Upload my license, take a picture of my license. Oh, no, don't worry about it. We'll come in here. We'll make it easier for you. We're going to have a digital ID. That way, you'll be able to automatically just press a button and we'll have your digital ID every time you log into the internet. And sure, you don't have to worry about us monitoring and tracking you. It's just to protect the children. So when you're Google searching things that might pop up in your head, the police won't show up at your door if you're asking questions about, well, tyrannical governments or the social credit score and how we're becoming digital slaves to this system. Well, if you search for those things and you have an awakening, the police will be at your front door. So Larry Fink has been appointed as the new co-chair of the World Economic Forum. You couldn't have picked, I mean, if you were going to ask me to make a list of like 5 people who I would say would be absolutely laughable if they put them in charge of the World Economic Forum, you'd think they'd put somebody in there that none of us have heard of. Now, granted, most people have never heard of Andre Hoffman, but everybody is familiar with Larry Fink. Everybody is familiar with BlackRock and the assets it owns and how many companies it's invested and involved in and the things that he said about controlling behaviors, because Palantir says the same exact thing. We want to control people's behaviors, right? And everybody out there hears that and they go, well, what's wrong with that? Well, they're not talking about controlling somebody's behavior who is a really bad person. They want to control our behaviors, people who are actually researching, people who are actually, critically thinking. They're not doing this because they're trying to rehabilitate some type of mass murderer and say, hey, let's put him through some type of Clockwork Orange MK Ultra where we could rehabilitate him and he suddenly will change his behavior for the betterment of society. This is for people like us. They don't want you critically thinking. They want to be able to monitor and track anyone they deem a threat to what they're about to bring in. And trust me, the people they consider a threat are people who are actually thinking, not people who are a part of the herd. And unfortunately, MAGA is the biggest part of this herd, this mob herd mentality that they've created with the left and the right, where these people remain divided day in and day out because of all of the propaganda they get fed every day from the alt-right media to the mainstream media. And none of these people are waking up to the fact that every single thing that Donald Trump has approved since he's been put back in power have all been to push towards this New World Order AI governance infrastructure. And that's why he's accelerating it. He even recently talked about how he's accelerating. Well, why is he accelerating? He's accelerating it because they don't want any pushback. They don't want people to realize what AI really means. They keep telling you that AI is going to take your job. AI might eventually murder you, but we need AI. And some people are going, but wait, what do we actually need it for? And they don't want you to have the time to even think to realize what they're doing. So they're trying to accelerate it and distract you while they're accelerating it. And then it'll be too late because it'll be in place with digital verifications, digital identities, digital currencies, and of course, modifying our behavior of what we can and cannot say online and what we can and cannot search online. That's the next wave that's going to come, where websites like this will be removed off of the internet because they'll say that it's dangerous. And all they have to do is put propaganda out there and say that we're terrorists, and the people will believe it. They believe whatever they see on that little magical box known as the television, or of course now, more people are on the internet and listening to their propaganda that way. And all they have to do is put a couple psyops out there. These people are on this website and there's this type of stuff they're looking at and the government's deeming them a threat. And then they could just make up a story about anybody here and say, this is what's, the breeding ground for hate online. Next thing you know, the website's gone. The next thing you know, they throw people like me in jail. That's what their plan is. And they have to do this as quickly as possible before people wake up and realize that this is a control grid using Palantir, using AI infrastructure governance, using all of the artificial intelligence that you could possibly imagine, all to control our thoughts and control how we behave, making us afraid to actually research or do anything independently on our own. They want us to join the hive mind. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.